98 FM's Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
And good morning from Adrian Kennedy. How are you today? Hope everything's good with you, and I hope you can stay with me between now and midday today. We have a lot of stuff to get through on the programme. By the way, if you want a bit of a laugh, go on to my Twitter at Adrian F. Kennedy on Twitter. Have a look at a video I put up yesterday. Been retweeted by Dublin Airport. I took our dog Molly plane spotting yesterday, of all things. And you might think, if you're a regular listener to the programme, you'll know me. I've mentioned Molly runs around the back garden like a lunatic chasing after dogs and gets great amusement out of it. I don't know if it's stress or whatever, but she loves airplanes. And I took her over to the airport yesterday and we spent a whole hour. We're just barking at airplanes. It's hilarious. If you want to have a look at the video, have a look at it now. It is on at Adrian F. Kennedy on Twitter and or on Dublin Airport's Twitter, because they retweeted it yesterday. Anyway, there you go. That's just a by the way, because I want to move on to slightly more serious matters than my dog barking at the airplanes. This week and next week, children all over Ireland are going back to school for the first time since March. And you, as parents, all have concerns and worries. Maybe you're feeling anxious about it. If you are, we want to hear what your concerns are, and we'll talk through them. Tell us what you're worried about. A parenting expert from mams.ie, Siobhan O'Neill, has been assisting parents over the last few weeks who have so many worries and concerns about sending their kids to school. People like Sarah, who contacted us only this morning, and I'll be talking to her in just a bit. Here's what she said. I'm wondering if you could bring up a topic on your show. So I've 2 kids, 9 and 3. School is back next week and I am just overcome with anxiety about it. I know they've been off for so long and I've toyed with the idea of homeschooling, but my husband and other family members think the kids need to be back at school. My 9-year-old is adamant she wants to go back. I just can't shake the anxiety about the whole thing. My 3-year-old is starting play school and it should be a really happy, exciting time, but all I feel is worried with everything going on with COVID. I'm wondering if any other parents are feeling the same way and what kinds of things they are doing to cope with the anxiety, and do they think the benefit of being in school outweighs the risk of contracting the virus. Thank you in advance. And that's from a lady called Sarah. As I said, I'll be talking to Sarah in a bit, but she's just one of the many who have been in touch with us in recent weeks about the worry of sending the children back to school. Now, I'm kind of glad that I'm past the children at school age, I have to be honest with you, because I should imagine it is a fairly anxious time. And because we've all been kind of, I won't say brainwashed, but we've all been conditioned into living our lives alongside this virus, into, looking at case numbers and worrying generally about this whole thing for the last 5.5 months. And I can imagine if you are a parent of a child who is due to go back to school this week or early next week, you are a bit worried. I want to find out what you're worried about. What are you concerned about? Or maybe you're a parent who is not in any way concerned and believes that the benefits of going back to school far outweigh any risks at all. Call me right now on 6797 981. You can text, you can WhatsApp, or you can send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Let us know what you're concerned about and how you're dealing with it, basically. Now, Siobhan O'Neill is from, as I said, mams.ie, and she joins me on the line. Siobhan, good morning to you.
Morning.
You've been dealing with this for the last number of weeks now.
We've actually been, mummies particularly, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to the dads, but on mams.ie it's mostly women. And I put this up last week because my daughter has asthma, so I have my own anxieties about sending her back. Obviously, I want my children to go back to school. Of course they need to be in school. But, you can't help worrying when you see what happened in Scotland last week with some teachers, contracting coronavirus. 8 of them had it. The school got closed down. So you can't avoid the media. You can't avoid these stories. So we have to try and find a way to deal with them going back, to try and make it as positive as possible, because our anxieties, of course, are going to transfer onto the children. So there's a lot of worries that, they're going to be anxious about going back. And yesterday I was at a school in Ballyfermot, and there was a load of kids starting for their first day, and it's it's going to haunt me. The children were lined up against the wall, socially distanced from each other. Their parents weren't able to walk in with them. The parents were outside the gate. The kids were crying. The parents were crying. My child wasn't even there, and I was nearly crying. And I just thought, this should be, of course it's emotional, your child's first day of school. And yeah, I cried on them all. But then I went off and I had my happy tears and went and had breakfast with my friends or whatever. This was completely different. It was a completely different vibe.
Right, so are we talking about junior infant kids were all crying,
These
were they?
Little. These were 4 and 5 years. These were starting school, and they were all separated. So you imagine, you have a little 4 or 5 year old, and they might have a little best friend or some little friends. They were separated from each other along a big wall. They were all distanced from each other because the children have to stay in bubbles. And that's actually a great word, I think, because it's not a scary word.
No,
for
of
kids,
course not.
That they're going to stay in a bubble. So when the children go into their classrooms, they will be put into bubbles, and they won't be able to mix with other classrooms. Lunches will be staggered. Drop-off times for school will be staggered. Pick-up times will be staggered. So, for example, my daughter has 2 best friends. One is in her class, one is in the other class. The 3 of them won't be able to play together because they're in different bubbles.
And how is she taking that? What age is she?
She's 9.
She's 9.
She's already saying, I'm really going to miss my little friend, because will we be able to play in the playground? And I'm saying, well, let's just see how things go. And school's going to be a little bit different, but we're gonna just see how we go. And we're talking with her about it. And I have to say, the school did the greatest thing. They sent an individual letter to every child, our primary school.
Oh, right.
Very reassuring, using language that's not scary. So yeah, they do need to have a little bum bag with their own little towel for washing their hands during the day. So they have to have every single item labelled. Pencils, pens. There will be no sharing of anything like that. So art supplies and things like that in schools, your children won't be able to share from a common pile in the middle of the table. It's not going to be like that anymore. So I would say to parents, get on to somewhere like mynametags.ie and get some personalised labels for your child and put it on everything. Uniforms, bags, so that they're not mixing things up with other children, because you don't want that, I hate to say, cross-contamination, but you need your child to keep their stuff to themselves.
Yeah.
You can let your child go online with you and pick the colour of the labels and the design of the labels. It's given them a little bit of influence in that decision, so you're actually including them. So I did that with Summer, she's 9, and that was nice, and so we've labelled everything together. So I'm not just throwing all these new rules and regulations at her. I'm letting her be a part of that decision-making process. Does that kind of make sense?
It does a little bit, yeah. And what about, so how many children have you got altogether, Siobhan?
I have a brood of 4.
Okay. And ranging in ages from?
From 17 to 9. So I guess I'm more worried about the 9-year-old because she's asthmatic, and yesterday I tried to get her in to see our doctor. Her breathing once the weather changes, most parents will know if they have an asthmatic kid, and this is a huge thing we found the last couple of weeks. Anyone whose child is asthmatic is in a complete panic about sending them back. We all are. I took her in and had her checked, and it was a nightmare trying to get a doctor to see her, but I just persevered, and we did.
And what did the doctor say?
It took me 23 phone calls to get her an appointment with a doctor. And I actually went down to the clinic and I rang the buzzer because they weren't answering the phone. And they told me I needed to ring back the next day. And I just said, no, I'm not leaving until someone checks her. Her breathing was quite wheezy. So they did, in fairness, and they gave her an inhaler and things like that. And they said, don't worry, she probably has a little virus. She's needs a little bit of inhaler on her chest. So we've got it now, and she's due back to school on Friday. Now, if I'm not happy with her Friday, she won't be going anywhere. But I went yesterday, we did it, because I know this time of year and a lot of parents will be in the same boat. So I would say, keep a close eye on them, and if you think something is developing, try and even call into your local pharmacy. Pharmacies are brilliant, and they'll always have advice for you. And only if you feel then you need to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. So that is a big thing. Things like, I think our government have really let us down, and this is a common theme that I have found when I'm speaking with our parents. So I put it up last week. How are we all feeling? I would say 95% of the mummies replied very, very anxious, and about 5% said, can't wait for them to go back.
And I've spoken to both types of parents over the last couple of weeks myself. Some very, very anxious. And like I said, it's small wonder that people have these anxieties when we've been living with this for months and it hasn't gone away, as they say. It's still lurking around, increasing cases, all of that. So, yes, I totally get the anxieties. So, obviously, parents whose children have conditions like asthma are particularly concerned. What other sorts of concerns have you been hearing?
Well, so there's, this one, and anyone who has teenagers will probably get this. So we've been advised that we have 3 kids going to secondary this year. So our 13-year-old starts secondary, and the other 2 are already there. We have been advised that they need to stay together on the bus. My 17-year-old is so horrified at the thought of having to sit with his sisters on a bus to school. He's actually beside himself with worry about it. He's like, I'm not sitting with them.
And that's because obviously they're from the one family and all of that, right? Where normally...
So the reality, they could sit where they like. The reality of trying to force teenagers that don't always see eye to eye to sit together, I would say that's going to be a challenge.
I should think so, yep.
Yeah. This year, so with your books and things like that, a lot of schools have moved to iPads, which is probably good because the child just has the one thing and you can clean it every day. So I will be giving them all hand sanitizers, wipes, all that kind of stuff. So have their bags kind of packed and ready to go, that they know, look, let's be honest, they're not going to clean the iPads themselves. I'll be doing it when they get home, but at least I can clean their little iPads. I can run a wipe over Summer's books. Again, I would say just make sure that you're setting them up properly when they're heading out the door. So, like, for example, with the iPad, I had to go and look for proper school bags to make sure that the iPad is fully padded and protected. So there's a great brand called Toto. That's really good for parents. I usually get 2 years out of those bags. I think you can get them in Bag City and the Ilac and places like that. Try and get good stuff. Have your child in a bag that's supportive enough, because a lot of school bags are not. They don't hold a lot of stuff. And remember, you're going to be putting extra things in this year. You're going to be putting in the hand sanitizers, and you're going to be putting in the wipes, and you might be putting in a towel. So make sure you've got them proper good bags and things like that. With their uniforms, a really good thing to do is you can have their initials put onto their uniforms so they don't mix them up with other people. We've done that. So we've had their initials put on their jumpers and jackets and their PE kits. Loads of places do that. Local haberdashery, O'Neill's Sportswear, they do it. They'll put it on the PE kits and stuff. So I know this all sounds, it is a lot of extra work. But if you're sending them off with the right bag and the right uniform, and they have their labels on and their names on the uniform and things like that, there's less chance that the iPad's going to get broke. There's less chance that the uniform is going to get mixed up with somebody else. And these are things that we have to think about now that we didn't have to think about really previously. So I suppose you just have to be... We should be definitely more prepared this year than we would have been previously. But it's about trying to get
Can I ask you, in terms of, you said you've kids ranging from 9 up to 17, are the older ones in any way anxious about going back?
Not, they are and they aren't. The 13-year-old obviously is nervous about starting secondary school, and under this kind of a cloud, that's going to be difficult for her. She's got dyslexia as well, so we're very, very conscious of this might be quite difficult for her. My daughter is doing her junior cert next year. She's already stressed. She's already thinking, what if the school closes? What if I have to do more homeschooling? How am I going to do well in my junior cert? We're already having that conversation, and I don't think we'd be having that conversation if we were in a different, if it was normal.
Okay, so it's obviously important for. I think we all recognise the importance of children going back to school after this length of time. And I'm interested in a poll that appeared on the journal.ie, and the question that they asked on the poll was, are you concerned about schools reopening? And 55% said yes, but I still think they need to reopen. 23% said yes, the reopening should be delayed. So the majority of people, 55% in this journal.ie poll, saying, yes, I am a bit anxious, but they still need to reopen. And I think that's how we all generally feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, with us, when we put it up last week, we got about 95% very, very anxious. And to the point where anyone with an underlying health condition in their family was considering homeschooling.
Yes, and in fact we had a woman on last week on this programme exactly that. And we want to hear some of those anxieties now on 6797981. And Siobhan, if you would be happy to stay with us,
sure.
I'd love to keep you on the line. Sarah, you're the lady whose email I read out at the start of the show by complete coincidence, by the way, because you sent in the email not knowing that we were actually planning to talk about this as well today. So you are a mother of 2 kids, aged 9 and 3, and you are particularly anxious about them going back to school.
Yeah, I'm just so nervous. I keep getting a pain in my stomach when I think about it. Just all the things, like especially with the 3-year-old, I know she won't be able to sanitize her hands or keep clean or keep away from anyone, and I'm just nervous about her bringing her home, and I'm gonna make sure I don't see my mum anymore again. And it's just the whole thing. It just scares the life out of me.
Stay with me for 1 second, because I have to take a quick break, but I will talk to you in more detail straight after the break. Don't go away. And if you'd like to get in touch with us about this, about your anxieties, or not, as the case may be, call me right now on 6797981. And the question that I'm asking, and this is the exact question that they asked actually on the journal just an hour ago or half an hour ago: are you concerned about schools reopening? Call me now on 6797981 or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98.
Daily COVID-19 discussion and information.
This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
And we're here until midday today. We're in the middle of a conversation about anxiety that people have about their children returning to school this week or next Monday. A lot of anxiety, it has to be said. A lot of parents believe that some people, in fact, a message that just came into me a second ago, it doesn't even support the idea of the schools reopening.
I don't blame people being nervous. If our government can't go back into the Dáil building and are renting the convention centre for social distancing, and they're expecting from 500 to 1,200 kids to go in and social distance, not going to happen.
All right, now, Sarah, I was talking to you there just before the break, and you sent us an email earlier on about your anxiety. So what are you concerned about?
I don't know. I think when you send them into school, you're not in control. You're not there to supervise. You don't know. Yeah, you just don't know what's going to happen in there. Are they going to be social distance? I know my little girl, she won't when she's in school. She does, she's pretty good. She'll sanitize her hands and all, but I know that when she's in there playing with her friends and stuff, she probably won't.
What has it been like for the last 5 months? What freedom, if you want, for want of a better word, have you let her have?
See, it's different for us because we only got back from Australia at the end of April, so she's starting a new school. She has no friends, so she's really excited. She wants to go back into school so she can meet people. So she's been at home the whole time, and she doesn't really know anyone, so she's ready to just be back at school.
Okay, so this will be her first time even interacting with other kids
in the new school. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about since she came back to Ireland.
Yeah, no, well, she's been with her cousins and stuff, but basically she's got no friends. She doesn't know anyone yet.
Okay, so this is an important time for her then, to start making new friends.
Yeah.
And okay, but I'm wondering what are you most concerned about?
I'm most concerned about them getting the virus, us getting the virus. I know that I'd be quite anxious anyway, so I know if they come home with a runny nose, I won't be able to sleep. I'll be up all night thinking, have they got it? I'm worried about passing it on to my mum because she's 72. So I'm not going to see her again when the kids go back to school.
Oh, you're going to keep away from your mum?
Yeah, I will. Like, I'd just be really nervous.
And is she
like,
an underlying health condition, or is she just 72?
Yeah, I'd just be really nervous to give it to her. Like, I'd never be able to live with myself if she, like, got the virus off my kids.
Okay, so your concern is that the kids are going to school, that they may pick it up there, that they may bring it home, that you may get it and you may pass it on to your mother.
Yeah, that any of us might, like, or just get really, like, it's just all the stories you hear, like, people getting the virus now, and then, like, young people, and then they've still got problems, like, 3 months later. Just stuff like that. It's just, all of it just scares me, really.
And Siobhan, Siobhan O'Neill from mams.ie is with me on the other line. And Siobhan, they are the sorts of concerns you've been hearing.
Everything Sarah says is absolutely, completely, she's right. And the way she's feeling is how so many other people are feeling. I can hopefully reassure her a little bit. My sister works in a creche and preschool, and the regulations that they have are absolutely, I mean, when they take the children outside, they're in their little bubbles, their hands are cleaned on their way back in, everything is sterilised, they're in for a shorter day. My sister's workload in that creche and preschool has probably doubled, if not tripled, since they've gone back after lockdown. So the staff are doing a phenomenal job. So I think where parents, and I know it's hard because we don't have control over making sure that their hands are washed and sanitised, the staff will look after that. They will take care of that.
And from what I'm hearing, Siobhan, and from what I've heard over the last couple of weeks, the main anxiety is parents no longer being able to look after their own children, essentially, for that period of time that they're in school, where they have done for the last 5 months. That's really what I'm hearing. It's letting go that control.
It's not, and it's not even just that. It's last week, we get, like, you've 3 counties that went back into lockdown. Then the rest of us are being told, stay home, work from home, socially distance, make sure you're doing X, Y, Z, make sure that you're in control, make sure that you're not mixing, you're not having parties. We had our daughter's confirmation on Saturday, and we split it into 2 halves of my husband's family for the first 2 hours. They left my family for the next 2 hours. Nobody over the age of 17, nothing like that. It was tiny. It was a tiny thing, and we split it. We, as parents, we are trying to do all the right things, and then you look at the government, and they're flying in the face of everything that we're trying to do. So you turn on the news, and you see all these terrible things the government are doing, and they're not being clear in one message that they're giving to parents. They're telling us to stay home, but send your kids back to school. So, of course, parents are anxious. I would say the schools, like the letter and stuff we've got from our primary school, the amount of work the schools are doing to create the bubbles to keep the children safe. For Sarah, she can send her own little hand sanitizer in with her daughter, her own little towel in.
Well, actually, Siobhan, just on that, we're going to be talking to somebody on this programme tomorrow who is asking parents not to send children into school with their own hand sanitizer. Because it's like sending them to school with a nagging of vodka. That's what they're saying, and we're going to be talking to them on the programme tomorrow.
Oh dear! Right, don't send your child to school. Scrap that.
Yeah,
but
just by coincidence, as you mentioned it is something we're going to be talking about tomorrow. Sarah, can I ask you? Despite your anxieties, your 9-year-old really wants to go back. Your 3-year-old, and Siobhan is saying there that there is a lot of reassurance about creches and preschool. Are you going to be sending them back?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to send them back. I know that they need it, and I do feel like that they need it more than like my anxiety. That's not going to stop me sending them back. But I know that for the whole time they go back, I'm just going to be worried the whole time. So I'm just kind of, it does make me feel better what Siobhan is saying, and I will be sending my kids in with their own hand sanitizers, definitely. Okay, well,
and something we will talk about on the show tomorrow, there are non-alcohol hand sanitizers available in some shops as well, but I will be talking to somebody tomorrow who is a little bit concerned about young kids in particular going to school with hand sanitizer, so we'll deal with that tomorrow on the programme. But anyway, let me have a listen to this WhatsApp voice note from Keith.
Hi Adrian, I'm absolutely terrified of my kids to go back. I have 4 kids, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 12-year-old and 14-year-old. So 2 are going into secondary school and 2 are going into primary school. I'm absolutely terrified. But not only that is like where people are giving advice and say, oh well, we have this and this, and you can come talk to this organisation if you're feeling anxious. But what do they know? This is unprecedented. We never had this before. Kids have never gone back to school under a pandemic like this in these days anyway. But not only that, is I actually can't afford to send my kids to school this year. Taking in 203 a week under the PUP payment is ridiculous. Like, I had to buy a €750 iPad for my son, and then I had to spend €450 just for my daughter to start transition year. And then now I still have to find another couple of €100 to get the books and the hardback copies that the school requested. I don't know where to begin.
All right. 0877 98 98 98 is our WhatsApp number if you want to send a WhatsApp voice note. Where am I going now? Another Sarah on line 3. Good morning, Sarah. You're on 98 FM. How are you?
Good morning. Good, thanks.
Also nervous as a mum about sending the kids back?
I am. I'm nervous about it. But at the same time, I know they have to go back. It'll be good for them to get back and start mixing with their pals again. My concern is, with all the guidelines coming out about children, you have to keep them off school if, for certain reasons. Reasons before where you may have sent them in and they may have been fine within a couple of hours.
Well, just on this, I will be talking to a doctor in just a while with advice on when to send them and when not to send them to school. But she's essentially saying that if they have your average... when I was a kid, I always had a snotty nose and always rubbing it in my sleeve and all that. I was never really sick. I just had a snotty nose. And she's saying kids like that can still go to school. Kids still get other things.
They do, but like a low grade fever, like I'd class kind of 37.5 as a fever, and I wouldn't generally send the kids into school. So, I'd keep to that kind of rule anyway. But my thing is now, if kids are going to be sent home more because they have a cough or something, who's going to support working parents when they have to?
That's a very good question. That is a very good question. It's it's one thing to say, keep them home.
Yeah.
But what do you? Well, having said all that, Sarah, what would you do in normal circumstances if the child isn't well?
Yeah, no, in normal circumstances, that's fine. I'm just thinking, because if they go into school with maybe a cough or a bit of a sneeze, they wouldn't generally be sent home because nobody would be worried. Nobody would be worried, about COVID. And I wouldn't generally send them into school, if they were really, really unwell. I would have my mother, as a backup system, but she also works. And then their other grandmother is in her 80s, so she's not an option anymore, to mind them with the whole...
So is it a case of back to where we were a few months ago and avoiding them because the children are back to school, just like the other Sarah said?
Yeah, well, definitely with their older grandmother, definitely. She's an old lady, and you couldn't risk her getting it. My mother's in her 50s, so it's different, But... my concern is just who is going to support working parents. Employers, my employer is fine about things like this on a normal level. My husband's wouldn't be, but I can't be the one to take the time off all the time if the kids are going to be, off school. And I have 3 in school, so...
But looking at last year, Sarah, how often were they off school sick?
Not very often,
So
the usual, when they go back in September, they, all kids seem to get sick
sniffles and whatever, So that's all perfectly normal. And those perfectly normal sniffles are still going to be around.
Yeah, they are. But I think that schools are going to be more cautious of children, if they start maybe coughing while they're in school, that they're going to be sent home, and then you're going to get the phone call.
Yes, I know, and I can. And Siobhan, that obviously is another realistic concern that many parents have. That what if my child gets sent home because he has a cough?
Let's all. Sarah's completely right. Our kids are going to be sent home way more than they normally would. And we got a message to say if your child shows any symptoms, which is, a cough or, wheezy or anything like that, they will be immediately quarantined and we will get a phone call and we will need to come and get them within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So you need to just down tools and go. So, and a lot of us are working from home, which our government tells us, stay home, work from home, but send your kids out into the world. So we're going to have to be ready to go. And I have a daughter with asthma, so I'm fully expecting lots of phone calls. And then there's the question of, how are we going to get work done when the kids are here? And they won't, Sarah's right, they wouldn't necessarily be sick. It would be just your commoner gardener colds and things that they get coming into the autumn and winter.
Okay, just as you're mentioning that, let's just have a listen to this from Lisa that has come in to me on WhatsApp.
About working families, do we have to drop everything if we child gets a sniffle in school? How are we going to just say, I have to leave work again today to go and collect my son? Like, there has to be some leeway. There's going to have to be something done about all of this before any kids go back to school. We can't just go drop of a hat. Some people definitely can't. I know I certainly can't.
No, and I know, and that's exactly the point, Sarah. An awful lot of parents are in that exact situation where, up until now, you wouldn't send them to school if they were fairly sick, but you would with a sniffle or a bit of a cough or whatever. And now, obviously,
generally they're fine after a few hours.
Yeah, of course.
It's nothing, But it kind of leaves you at a loss. Like, exactly. They're like, you're being told to work from home, but send your kids out,
Okay, stay there for a second. Let's bring in some more. This is Keith.
Hi, Adrian.
Oh, sorry, I played that. Sorry, my apologies. This is Shauna.
Hi, Adrian. I possibly would have been worried for my little girl going back to school. She is only starting junior infants, and obviously, like that woman said, it's supposed to be a really happy time. We have been constantly updated by the school of what they're going to be doing, the staggered start times, hand sanitizers in each classroom. I actually had to drop all her school books off this morning because they're not allowed school bags. They'll just be sending home photocopies of homework and stuff. And I think that's put my mind at ease. Now, in fairness, I would have been sending her back anyway because homeschooling just isn't an option for me or her dad. We both work long hours. And to be honest with you, she just doesn't listen to us. I've tried when the lockdown started first for her to, just trace numbers and stuff. And that was just like talking to a brick wall. So not a hope was that going to work for us. So I'm kind of glad that she is going back to school, that she does get to mix with her friends. And what's mixing with her friends in school when they're going to be on separated break times? It's not going to be any different to her being out on the road playing with, I don't know, there could be 15 different kids. I don't know. I just think that sometimes it's us that cause more anxiety. Like, that little girl, Sarah, her daughter wants to go back to school. She's 9 and she's asking to go back. I think the fear is more in the parents. And I think, unfortunately, this virus is something that we're going to have to live with.
And that's exactly what the government have been saying. That's exactly what the chief medical officer has been saying, that we can't get rid of it. We need to just live alongside it, and we just all have to learn to live alongside it. Stacey, I'll take your calls straight after the break. A lot more WhatsApps to play about people's concerns about the children going back to school. A lot of parents are saying we need to stop putting these anxieties onto our children. We need to take a step back, let them go for it, essentially. Mind you, there are other parents who are not sending their children back to school, like this message. I'm not sending my teenagers back to school. Both are due into exam years, but because there is autoimmune conditions in the household, I'm a single parent. My parents are in their 70s and I have a partner with health issues who doesn't live with us. I'm not prepared to volunteer my kids as guinea pigs and isolate from our only human contact in this current climate. We'll take a very quick break. More of your calls in just a moment. Don't go away.
Up-to-date coronavirus discussion for Dublin.
This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
All right, huge reaction coming into this about the anxieties that parents are feeling. Here's a WhatsApp voice note from Michelle.
Hi, Adrian. I'm a mum of a little boy who is almost 4. He's going back to preschool next Monday. He has autism and he is going to a special preschool for him. He has become so dysregulated over the whole lockdown period, so I am happy for him to go back there. He already has been in school for July. There was the July provision, and it did him the world of good, and he needs it. And a lot of kids with special needs, although parents are probably worried, they just really need it. Every child needs to go back. I have a 5-year-old as well. She's going back to senior infants. The one thing I did that kind of helped me was have a look on the Centre for Disease Prevention and Control, and they've got a good section about kids and coronavirus, and the same on the WHO. So I looked those up, and that put my mind at ease. Thanks.
All right, Michelle, thank you very much indeed for that one. Alma has 2 children going back to school tomorrow, and she's at ease with it.
Hi, Adrian and Jeremy. I have 2 children going back to school tomorrow, 6 and 12. They are really delighted to be going back. I was a bit anxious, but then the principal sent out a YouTube video to the kids showing them what way the school is going to work and where the hand sanitizer is. Showed them the classroom, the layout of junior and senior classrooms. It showed them the teachers with the visors on, what the teachers are going to look like. And to be honest, they had no questions after it. He explained it all so well, and he's been sending emails every week of all the details, and so the kids are actually delighted, and it put me at ease as well. So yeah, super happy to be going back.
That's brilliant, Alma. Nice to hear. Now Stacey around 98 FM. Hiya, Stacey.
Hi, good morning.
Also 2 children going back, but you're in an even more difficult situation in that you happen to be living in a county that is under restrictions. You're in Kildare.
Yeah, I'm living in Kildare at the moment, and like everything is closed down here. Like the likes of pubs, restaurants can only operate if they have outside dining. Coffee shops are restricted to 4 customers to come in and get their coffee and go. And there's signs all over the place, to say that there's only 4 allowed in the shop, and yet the schools are still due to open on Thursday. My youngest son now, he has a kidney disease, and even if he picks up a cold or a flu, he's floored. It's not like when I get a cold or a flu, I can just, get on with my day. He's absolutely floored. He also suffers with high blood pressure and consistently gets nosebleeds. So, even when he was in school before lockdown, I was getting phone calls to go up and collect him because he couldn't get his nose to stop bleeding and, stuff like that. Now I'm I'm so anxious and nervous about sending the younger one back, but definitely more anxious being in lockdown and having to send them back. I'm still in 2 minds of what to do.
And we're broadcasting from a county that is also under the spotlight now, as you may have seen yesterday from the press conference. They're keeping an eye on Dublin as well, and we could be looking at something similar in the future regarding the amount of cases circulating around Dublin. When you look at it, though, in the round, do you think that your children will benefit more from going back to school than the schools continuing to remain closed?
I think they will benefit going back to school. They need school back in their lives. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, wait till we're out of lockdown. Don't be sending them back to school while we're in lockdown. There's a reason we're in lockdown. It's because the numbers are high. So, it just makes no sense. You also have kids that's travelling from the likes of Dublin and Racool area, to be specific, into schools in Naas for secondary school, and it makes no sense. I know that's probably deemed as essential travel, but you're also getting kids from other counties travelling to Kildare for schooling, so they're mixing with Kildare people. So is that not going to make...
I know, but that's to make it sound like the people in Kildare have the plague. They don't. It just so happens that the case numbers have been a little bit higher in Kildare than other parts of the country. Do you know what I mean?
That's how we feel at the moment. My son plays for a team in Dublin, but he can't go training down in Dublin because he's from Kildare. He's not allowed. The FAI guidelines.
Well, let me ask you, because somebody just sent a message in a second ago, and it says kids have been mixing and playing together in playgrounds, football training camps for weeks now with no major problems. They need to go back to school as soon as possible. I'm sure they will all be grand, and if there's a few cases of COVID, big deal, because they'll be fine. We need to get on with our lives. This has taken over our lives for too long. What do you say to that?
I agree, but I also have to understand we're not in lockdown for no reason. We're in lockdown for a reason. So, although the Kildare teams are still training down here and we're not allowed to play matches, underage, it's a maximum of 15 people, so 13 kids and 2 coaches. Plus it's outdoor on a full 11-a-side pitch, so... it's not in a classroom, and the maximum you're going to train for is 2 hours and the minimum an hour. So... you know, people can say, oh, they're training, they're doing this and they're mixing. It's all outdoors. No one's having big, you know, kids get together in houses for many hours and then they're going home. I know I haven't let my kids stay in houses or anything like that. Yeah, my oldest son has gone training with his football team, but at that, it's outdoors. It's a maximum of 13 kids with 2 coaches, and it's run properly by the guidelines that we've been sent by the FAI. So.
Okay, but the point that message is making is that kids have been playing and mixing together over the summer months since we came out of lockdown, and there hasn't been, you know, a major crisis.
Okay, but that's probably going on in a lot of areas, but I know for my kids, they have the same friends and only been mixing since we came out of first lockdown, not mixing every day and mixing with new friends every day. It's literally, they said, like, there's 2 kids around the corner that my kids would be with. That's about it.
Right, okay, so they've been in a little bubble anyhow.
Exactly.
Okay, so even though you are anxious about it, they are going to be going back?
I'm still on 2 minds. I'm still in 2 minds until I'd feel more secure if we were out of lockdown and then they opened the schools. I'd probably still be nervous, but I'd send them back. But right now I'm still on 2 minds. I'm kind of debating with my husband at the moment about sending them back.
And when are they due to go back?
The youngest one is due on Thursday and the oldest one is due on Monday.
Okay, stay there for a second, Stacey. Can you mention everyone on a COVID payment? Sorry, this is Siobhan who was on to us a while ago. Everyone on a COVID payment is entitled to back-to-school clothing and footwear allowance this year. If that caller, Keith, who sent the message in a couple of minutes ago, didn't automatically get it, he can apply at welfare.ie. For 4 kids, it's approximately €975, so that should help him out with costs. And that is from Siobhan O'Neill from mams.ie. Tracy, you have one son who has asthma. Spoke to your GP yesterday about it. And how did you get on?
Well, to be honest with you, I have been up the walls because Ryan has been so well since he finished school in March. Normally he'd be on 2 or 3 doses of steroids by now. He's seasonal asthma, so when the damp weather kicks in, his chest starts. Wearing the mask, going into a shop with him now, he's coughing, so I can only imagine sitting in the classroom for an hour or 2, it'll get worse, and he'd be sent home. So I was up to a 90. Now, I have underlying medical conditions as well, so I'd be at risk. I'm lucky I don't work. I rang the GP yesterday because I was getting anxiety and stressing out, and his advice was, do not send him in for the first 2 weeks. It would be like sending him into a lion's den. Nobody knows what's going to happen. They're saying that children don't get affected.
So sorry, you're telling me that your GP advised you not to send your child back to school for at least 2 weeks?
Yes. He said, let's see what happens in the school. Let's see what the infection rate's going to be like. Because he said, I can't say to you that when you send Ryan into school, if he does say can't contact COVID-19, if it's going to affect him the way that it's affecting most children now, which is very mild. But because he has asthma, he could end up on a ventilator in Crumlin. And then you'll be saying to yourself, why did I send him in? So myself and his father have made the decision now. We've contacted the school. I'm waiting for them to come back, that we're not going to send him in for the first 2 weeks. We're going to see what happens in the school first, because I'm looking at cases in Germany. All the schools have closed down.
No, not all the schools have closed down.
But some of them, you know, like Ryan's 13,
have,
14, yes. But he, as the doctor said, he's not a child, he's an adult. You know, he's a big lad. So it's not going to be the same as a small child getting it, you know. So, and I have cocooned him. He hasn't been out with his friends. He's been out with one friend for a bike ride for half an hour and came back.
So he hasn't been mixing with people.
He hasn't been mixed with other children, so that's my biggest fear.
Okay, so you're going to keep him off for the next 2 weeks. What age is he again? Sorry, he's
13. He'll be 14 in September. He's going into second year.
Right, okay. And so the next 2 weeks he's not going to be going to school. And
well, he's not due back till Thursday week, but I'm just not sending him back. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Tracy, like I said, an awful lot of anxiety we're hearing. This is a message from Steph, which is quite concerning.
Hi, Adrian. So my child is 7, going into second class. And to be honest with you, I didn't actually think she was nervous until yesterday morning, just randomly out of the blue. She asked me what if her teacher was to get sick? Would she make all of them sick? And what would happen? Would she come home then and make us sick? And for me, it was just an eye-opener because I didn't think she was afraid. To be honest, I just think, us as adults have a choice. We can choose if we want to go to the shop, if we want to go to the pub, if we want to take that risk. Our children have no choice in this. They're literally being told, okay, Monday you're going back to school. There's absolutely no choice in it at all. And I don't know, I just feel it should be, it should be more looked into before we just go throwing our children in at the deep end, personally.
All right, Steph, thank you very much indeed. Some more of your reaction about anxiety with parents after the break. We'll be hearing from a teacher who's also anxious about going back to work. And I'll be talking to a GP with some advice on when and when not to send children back to school. Don't go away. We're back in a second. It's 11 o'clock across Dublin. Good morning. This is Adrian Kennedy. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. And this is Emma with Tuesday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. Good morning. A design team has been appointed for the old Carlton Cinema site on O'Connell Street, one of the city's biggest regeneration projects. The 6-acre plot will include shops, offices, a hotel and new pedestrian links and public spaces. Of the 147 cases of COVID-19 confirmed yesterday, half were in Dublin, prompting concern about among public health officials. 1 in 3 infections in the capital are linked to community transmission, which is higher than the rest of the country. Some students are returning to school this morning after an almost 6-month absence because of COVID-19. Health officials say a child shouldn't go in if they have a temperature or cough, but the odd sniffle and sneezing is okay. And the boss of Zoom has apologised after its services went down yesterday afternoon. Millions of people were left unable to use the video conferencing platform after what it called a partial outage. The company didn't say what caused it, but says everything's back up and running. And now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Call 6797 981.
And good morning from Adrian Kennedy. Jason sent me this WhatsApp voice note.
Morning, Adrian. Maybe you all stop scaremongering the kids and actually tell them the truth. The truth is that there's a good chance that nothing will happen to them. Stop scaremongering the kids with these face masks, making them wear face masks in school all day, and stripping back the classrooms that all they're doing is sitting in a room with walls. What are we doing to these poor kids? We're going to have a lot of issues coming down the line if we don't get our act together. Stop listening to the scaremongering. This ain't as dangerous as people keep making it out to be. Do your research, people. Look at the facts and the figures. Look at the numbers. They speak for themselves. Thank you.
All right. Jess says children are great at adapting to new things.
Morning, Adrian. I have a 6 and a 7-year-old going back to school, and although I'm teaching them every bit of etiquette that they need to know and reassure myself they'll be okay, I don't want them going in feeling as anxious as I am. Everyone is anxious about the virus, but if we're all playing our part, and we should be okay mentally and physically and emotionally. The little kids need to see their friends, and their kids adjust and adapt to things quicker than adults, I feel.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Aisling also believes parents need to stop passing their fear onto their children.
The kids need to go back to school. It's parents putting fear into children. Stop putting your fear into the kids. They're well able. Like, stop, seriously. You're just making them more freaked out, more stressed. Like, I'm not stressed about my child going back to school, but it's seriously, like, people just need to let them go back to school, get some normality in their lives. Aisling here. All
right, thanks, Aisling. Rob.
Morning, Adrian. Rob here. Just on that note there, as I was talking about, don't forget about the likes of the secondary school kids. Some of them that be gamming on too, saying that they have a cough and pretending they have a cough just to get home. They don't want to be in school as well. I mean, you have to take all that into consideration as well. Cheers.
Never thought of that, actually, Rob. It's a great way of getting out of school, isn't it? Let's hope none of them act the maggot like that. One last message from Kathy.
Hiya. I was in a school meeting last week with my son's teacher. He's starting junior infants and he is on the spectrum, so we need to put out a care plan for him. The only thing that I can say that's changed in his school is the teacher needs to wear face masks. There's a hand sanitizer thing in the room, and parents will have to drop off at the gate. But as I said, he's in junior infants, he doesn't know any different. I think people need to stop reading things on Facebook and social media and the likes of seeing pictures with plexiglass put up and all this kind of stuff, and like that there was none of that in that building, none of it. People just really need to stop reading into this scaremongering things, because your anxiety, you're passing it on to your kids and they can pick up on that. The kids need some normality back in their lives. It's been 5 months of being at home with barely any social interaction, and the kids need it more than ourselves. They need the social interaction.
All right, and then one last WhatsApp voice note from Dave.
Adrian, could you get your callers to verify, are younger children wearing masks? Because under the age of 13 they're exempt, because young kids don't have to wear masks. My young people's school is not bringing in masks at all for the kids, and just buys them for the teachers. Or is it just teenagers? Because masks on young kids kind of messed up.
I don't like the idea of masks on young kids, I have to say. And even when I do see it, and I see it in shops from time to time, I hate to see it. I really do. Anyway, here's another completely different twist for a minute. We were talking about parents and parents' anxieties and, worrying about kids with asthma and various different things, as you've heard over the last hour. Here's a message that we got from a teacher who is also anxious about going back to work.
I'm a post-primary teacher, and I've heard over the past while that the schools are reopening this coming week. The kids are going back, and everyone is really excited about it, and the kids are really excited about it too, and the economy can kickstart and things like that. And the focus itself generally seems to be around the kids and the kids' health and the kids' mental health, their general well-being. And very little focus is around the staff members, the teachers, the cleaners, that type of thing. And yesterday, I heard a report in the news that kids don't generally transmit the virus amongst themselves. The risk is very, very low. They generally contract the virus from a home setting. And this was coming from a report from experts in Europe and, people like that. But personally, as a teacher, I don't really care where the kids contract their virus from. I'm just concerned that they actually have the virus, and they could potentially pass the virus onto myself, and I could potentially pass the virus onto a loved one. And unfortunately, both my parents suffer with underlying conditions, so passing the virus onto them, it could have devastating consequences. And that's a risk that I'm extremely anxious about taking in going back to the workplace. So I personally, I think that the government has ploughed money into the reopening of schools and all this social distancing and things like that. I just think that they should have taken a portion of that money, and rather than plowing it into schools, they should have actually put a portion into training the teacher to teach online to the kids. Because no doubt what's going to happen is that when the schools reopen, the cases are going to increase rapidly. And the schools are just going to have to close down again, which means that we're going to have to go back to online learning. And the reason why online learning was quite unsuccessful the last time is because it was the very first time that it was actually done. It was done under very, very strange circumstances. And it was done almost immediately. There's teachers, certainly in my school, there's teachers that are of the mature age that really, they struggle to actually turn a computer system on, let alone hold an online class. So, in my opinion, if they were to train the teachers to actually deliver online classes, that would be a big help. Obviously, some people would pick the knowledge up a lot quicker than others. So there would be a little bit of imbalance there. But the online experience would be a lot better for the kids, and it would keep the parents, it would keep the teachers and all the staff safe, and it would allow the kids to not pick up the virus from other kids, although the risk, as we have been told, is quite low. Nevertheless, they do still pick it up, so it would eliminate that. The only thing that it would do is that it would mean that the kids are at home. So mommy and daddy don't get to go back to work, or don't get to stay at home and have a free time away from the kids, and whatever the reason is. So I was just hoping that you would bring this topic up with your listeners, just to see what they think. Thanks very much.
All right, well, there you go. That's a teacher who also has anxieties about going back to work. He's a secondary school teacher, as you could hear, but he is a little bit concerned. If you're a teacher, are you anxious about going back to school? Very quickly, you can give us a call. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Jason, your point just on the back of that message, and that was a pre-recorded message that was sent in to us earlier on. You believe that people like him shouldn't have to go back to work?
Oh, God, no. Nobody should be forced to go back to work.
Oh, should be forced to go back.
Listen to the poor man there on his full wages. Put him on the COVID like the rest of the people that are out of work then, and let's see how long he stays out of work. And his last comments there about parents being at home enjoying their free time without their kids, if them parents don't work, they've no money, they don't get their full pay like this fella's getting. Did you hear him there? Did you listen to that message? It's all about him. Put him on the COVID, he doesn't come back. Nobody has to come back to work if they want it. You can't force them. I agree with him there. If he's that nervous of kids giving it to him, he shouldn't be in the job.
He's not right to be.
We know what these teachers
Hang
are
on for
like.
a second.
Okay, money with them.
Hang on, Jason.
You offer them enough money and they'll go to work.
Jason, I'm back here. I'm in work. I have been in work every day since this whole thing kicked off. However, I feel safe in our company because everybody is well spaced out, and we've perspex dividers and all of that.
That's perfect. Yeah,
okay.
That's perfect for you. Yeah.
That's not going to be the case in a school.
You can't do that to children, Adrian. You cannot do this. Even this mask, we are ruining these kids. These kids are living in fear now because they see the fear on their parents' faces.
But the point I'm trying to make to you, Jason, is... Hang on. The point I'm trying to make is that I feel safe in this office, the way it's all spaced out, the way we're able to keep 2 meters distance. Yeah. It seems a little bit unfair that somebody in a different type of workplace gets forced to have to...
As I said, No, that's grand. Don't force him back to work. But why is he on his full pay then, when the rest of the country had to take COVID payments? But why? Why is he on full pay when he's been sitting at home for the last 5 months enjoying his free time away from all his kids?
Okay,
let's have it. That's all. That's
fine. Yeah,
don't force him back to work.
Okay,
if he doesn't want to go back, don't force him.
And put him on the COVID payment. All right, let me have a listen to this from Dan.
Yeah. Very well said about kids and they return to schools, creches, and so on. Apparently, we, all the adults, parents, grannies, granddads, and so on, come kind of left on the side only for the kids' well-being. Not really fair, to be honest. Thank you. Can't comment, sorry.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Karen is reacting to Jason, who's on the line here. Jason, stay there for a second. Let's have a listen to this message from Karen.
Adrian, that guy saying it's all about money with teachers. God, it's spoiled my blood. Yeah, teachers were on full pay, but teachers were also working through all this. I worked harder than I ever have done during COVID, during the school closures. I had my summer holidays. That's nothing changed there, and I'm going back to work at the end of this week. I'm happy to go back. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm pregnant. Yeah, I'm a little bit anxious, but I'm going back. I'm not moaning about it. You know, I have 2 kids and I'm happy to send them back to school. Therefore, why wouldn't I go back myself? But I will be taking the necessary precautions that the school have put in place. Not the government, the school have put these in place. Because the government have really let everybody in the school community down. And it shouldn't be teachers versus parents or, you know, teachers versus parents and children. Everyone's on the same, we all have the same idea. We all want to get back to school. We all want the children back learning. No teacher, or maybe I'm wrong, but very few teachers actually want to be at home not working.
All right. And Caroline sent me this message.
Caroline here. I think it just sounds like he just wants to stay at home and be quite happy just to teach online. I really hope he's not a teacher in my daughter's school with that attitude. Like, as Jason's saying there, he's dead right, sit at home on your COVID payments. Obviously, he's getting paid his full wages, which we all weren't.
All right, thank you very much indeed. God, there's lots of reactions to that teacher. We were talking about the anxiety that parents have sending the kids back to school, and then we had that message from a teacher who is anxious about going back to school himself. Andrea, what was your reaction when you heard that teacher's message?
It's just quite annoying because I'm an early years educator and we've been back since the end of June, and I know it's uncertain times and I was nervous going back, but at the end of the day we have to go back for frontline workers, and we've been back since then. And yeah, it's nerve-wracking going back, but since we got
back, has it settled down now and you've gotten into a new routine?
Yeah, once you get back in, you just kind of have to work with your new routine. And since June, it's fine. Like, the staff are coming in, the kids are coming in, like, everyone's all happy and the children are loving being back and stuff like that. So it annoys me that teacher's coming back and saying he doesn't know where the kids have been and stuff like this. Like, if that's the case, are we just going to stay in the same spot and not move on?
Is he not right to be concerned? You've already admitted that you were a bit anxious yourself.
Oh yeah, no, it is concerning, but that's his job at the end of the day. He's working with children. It's like us, we came back, we're working with children. So that's his job at the end of the day. His job is to teach the children. So
I know, but the concern is, and you've heard this, you know, with 25 or 30 kids in a classroom, and okay, they might be all in their little bubbles, but the poor old teacher there is mixing with all of them, and that has to be a concern.
Oh, it is a concern, but so are the early years educators mixing with children. A class of 22 in ECCE, they're mixing with children as well. And the annoying thing is,
so what? Just get on with it.
Well, we kind of have to, don't we? If we don't get on with it...
No, but like I was saying, you know, when I'm sitting here doing the show every day, I'm sitting in a room on my own, so nobody's coming next, nigh or near me. When I'm out in the office after the show, before the show, I'm sitting at a desk and the nearest person to me is about 3 metres away. So that's all very safe. We're not mingling. We're not doing any of that. So I feel very safe in work. I don't know how I would be, or other colleagues here, if there wasn't that ability to distance and all of that.
No, but I totally understand, but I don't get the way he's saying he doesn't know where the children have been.
Sure, but he doesn't.
Oh, no, I know, but as I said, preschoolers are open and the children are coming in. You just kind of have to get on with it.
Okay, but and in fact,
even since lockdown, what annoys me is he's been at home and he's got paid full wage throughout, like with the government, and we've been shut down, but then we're told to go back with frontline staff, and that's grand, we're back. And we're getting paid now, but if he doesn't go back to work because he's anxious, does he still get his full wage?
Okay, but firstly, a lot of teachers were working, they were homeschooling, and, you know, for a lot of them that was even harder than normal schooling because it was all new to them. So he was working, and other teachers were. But do we not have to have an understanding of the anxiety that adult teachers might also have about going back to work.
No, that's fine. But I'm just stating the fact that, like, the early years have been working, and we've had that anxious feeling as well. But there comes a stage where we kind of just have to get a new routine going,
and just get on with
hope
it.
for the best. That's
Yeah. All right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right. Let me just thanks, Andrea. Let's just play another couple of WhatsApps just in reaction to that teacher. This is Anne.
Hey, Adrian. Sorry. I just can't believe what I've listened from that teacher. Unreal. My daughter's grown up. I have grandkids now. What about the doctors and the nurses and the people in the supermarkets? And I'm actually dumbfounded. And that last caller was so right. Put them onto COVID payment and see how long they'll say they'll stay out of work. Unreal. Actually unreal. Kids have to get back to school. They have to get back to some kind of normality. Anyway, that's just my little rant for the day. Have a good day.
Thank you, Anne. And then one final message from another Anne.
Hi, Adrian. I was just thinking, with that teacher's attitude, he should stay at home, because I think he'd have no interest in teaching the kids if all he's worried about is catching a virus from them. Thanks. Bye.
All right, and one last call. Karen, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Karen.
Yeah, how are you?
I
just wanted to kind of mention, I've got 3 kids returning to school, one in primary, one in secondary, and one in third level. And nobody is mentioning the fact that we have third level students arriving from all over the world over the next few weeks to return to college in Ireland.
It still hasn't been, well, certainly not that I have heard, outlined properly how third level is going to operate.
Well, most of the colleges have a mixture of online and in-house, tutoring systems going on. But the problem is that we're not testing those students. Even America, who has been blasted of not having the right, things in place over this virus, is testing all their college students before they return so that they can catch any clusters early. My children will be all mixing in this house together, and I mean, the government is saying stay in small groups. It won't spread in schools. What a ridiculous thing to say! It has to come into the home in some form, from somewhere. And we're not testing. We don't have any system in place to test the college students that are coming into this country. In fact, even the Irish ones that are going to be moving from county to county, because they will have to attend some lectures in the third level institutions.
But from what I understand, a lot more will be done remotely. Where we're trying to, I know that, but we're trying to row back against the whole idea of homeschooling our children, our younger children, so they're all going back to school. But with third level, I believe there's going to be kind of a blended approach to it.
Exactly, because the third level institutions know that if they have large groups of people in the same building, that the virus will spread. And I think what's going to happen is, the government last night on the news, one of the representatives there even talked about the inflammatory syndrome as not being proven. That's totally not true. I have a friend who has an 11-year-old who's had post-COVID fatigue since March. Since March. This does affect children if they get it. It's not a nice virus. They may not end up in hospital, but the after effects of it can linger for months later. And I think what's going to happen is the first 2 weeks will go swimmingly in schools because the virus will not take a foothold. It'll be when the colder months come the end of September, October, that we're going to see a massive peak.
Okay, so do you have an understanding then? Do you have an understanding for where that teacher was coming from then?
Oh, completely. Yeah, I have a complete understanding. But I cannot understand why the government is walking the teachers into... I think 70% of the nurses who contracted COVID-19 are still off. They're not back to work because of post-COVID. None of them ended up in intensive care. So when you look at the stats on the websites about intensive care cases and recovery means that you're not in hospital. It doesn't mean that you don't have symptoms of post-COVID fatigue.
No,
for months
absolutely.
after.
No, and I've heard of other people with the exact same thing. Okay, so you're supporting that teacher, and as is this WhatsApp voice note from Sarah.
You have to understand that man's anxiety. I'd be anxious as well going back to work if I was a teacher.
Like, it's, yeah, you can't just say that the parents are anxious and the kids are anxious and the teachers have to just be completely okay with it. It's completely understandable for them to be anxious as well.
All right, we're going to take a very quick break, and on the way after that break, if you are an anxious parent, worried about the kids going back to school, worried about different illnesses and whatever, I'm going to be talking to a doctor after the break who's got some straight advice for you.
The sound of the city, from Lucan to Lusk. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
I do want to move on in a second. In fact, I want to talk to you in a moment about the guards and their ability to wave you on if you happen to be caught using your mobile phone, as happened infamously the other day. But anyway, I'll come back to that in just a second. But before we do that, what should you, as a parent, do if your kids are a little bit sick? Do you send them to school? Do you not send them to school? How do you cope with their different sicknesses? Because, of course, besides all of this virus stuff, kids still get sniffles. I'm joined on the line by Elise GP, who's been on this programme before, who set up a dedicated social media page for COVID advice back at the start of the pandemic. Her name is Dr. Sharon Delaney. Sharon, good morning and welcome to 98 FM.
Thank you for having me.
Parents are obviously concerned as schools begin to reopen about when they should and when they shouldn't send their children to school. Are there any guidelines that parents should be following?
Yeah, so Adrian, we just got new guidelines last night from the HPSC regarding children from 3 months to age 13 regarding symptoms that they might have, when they should go to school, when they shouldn't, when they should be tested, and when they should be allowed back into childcare or school. So we know that kids get lots of infections all the time. They get runny noses. The guidance says that unless they have a blocked or runny nose with a fever over 38, or if they require paracetamol or ibuprofen, they can attend school. But if they do require paracetamol or ibuprofen, then they can't attend for 48 hours.
Okay, so I, as a kid, always had a runny nose, was always wiping my nose and my sleeve and everything else. And it's something that lots of kids have, and I wasn't ever really sick, I just always had a runny nose.
Yeah.
I should have still been able to go to school, would that be right?
Yeah. So as long as you didn't have a temperature over 38, and you cough, shortness of breath, if it was just the runny nose and you hadn't needed paracetamol or ibuprofen, then you would have been fine to go.
Okay, so parents need to be looking for what we classically know as the symptoms of COVID-19, a persistent cough or a high temperature.
So new cough, shortness of breath, fever greater than 38, symptoms of loss of smell, loss of taste, or distortion of the sense of smell or taste. They're the same. They're the same things that we're looking out for in adults as well.
So for parents who may be bringing their kids to school and may hear anecdotally of, the little Johnny was in my class today and he had a cold, is that something that parents should be paranoid about, or should they just be trusting each other that they're making the right decisions on when and when not to let their children go to school?
Yeah, well, I think we all have a huge responsibility in the interest of public health not to be sending sick children to school if there is a chance that they do have COVID. Obviously, if there's any suspicion, then you need to contact your GP and discuss it with them, and they can refer for testing if warranted. But yeah, we all have a major responsibility to protect other people by not putting them in danger if our children or even ourselves, if we're unwell, going out in public.
Okay, but the message is, as we said, children do get sniffles that will be completely unrelated to COVID-19, and we need to bear that in mind when making that decision around whether they go to school or not.
Exactly.
All right, Dr. Sharon Delaney, thank you very much indeed for talking to us on 98 FM.
No problem, thank you. Bye.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. IMRO award-winning local current affairs show of the year.
And this is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today. Now, let's move on from COVID issues to another issue that's been doing the rounds over the last couple of days. The whole Phil Hogan issue that's going on has raised an interesting debate, all to do with using your mobile phone while driving. As we all know by now, Hogan was given a warning after being stopped by Gardaí while using his phone while driving. No fine, no penalty points, just a tut, Phil, don't do it again. And he went on his way with a caution. Now, it's emerged that Gardaí are actually entitled to use discretion when it comes to someone being stopped for using their mobile phone while driving. And that's exactly what happened to Phil Hogan. I anecdotally know of it happening to a couple of people. They were just lucky. And the guard just said, go on your way. It's understood the Garda involved did not issue a fine or punishment for the offence and instead used his or her discretion to issue a verbal warning, a little slap on the wrist, a record of which was entered into the Garda Pulse system. Now, we don't know exactly what Mr. Hogan was doing with his phone. However, the whole Garda discretion issue goes against the current campaign from the Road Safety Authority. Their radio ad says there's no legal limit for mobile phone use. No ifs, no buts, no excuses. In fact, here is the RSA, one of the RSA adverts.
The penalty for using a mobile phone while driving is an automatic 3 points on your licence and a €60 fine. Mobile distraction can impair your judgment and reaction time as much as driving under the influence. That's why there's no legal limit for mobile phone use. No ifs, no buts, no excuses. One text, one call, one look could be the cause of a fatal collision. It won't kill you to put it away. From the Road Safety Authority and on Garda Síochána.
Yeah, there you go. That's one of the ads. There's a couple of different ads, but that's just one of them. And that's what we want to hear from you. That ad says quite clearly, there's no legal limit for mobile phone use. No ifs, no buts, no excuses. And that's what I want to hear from you. Do you believe that that sort of discretion that the Gardaí have to basically let you off, is it something that should be done away with? Have you been caught using your phone while driving where you felt it was essential and you had to use it? And do you think that the Gardaí should always have that sort of discretion to be able to say, you know, if you come up with some excuse, we don't know what Phil Hogan's excuse was for having his phone in his hand, but whatever it was, and the Gardaí can accept your excuse or not? Do you think they should have that discretion? Or should it be like drink driving? If you're caught, a guard can't say, you shouldn't have drank that much, go on your way. A guard has to do you now if you fail a breathalyser. He has no choice in the matter. Call me right now on 6797 981. Let me go to Nicola. You're on 98 FM. How are you, Nicola?
Hi there, how are you today?
Now, you believe that it is dangerous, but not the most dangerous thing on our roads.
No, obviously it is. It's a huge factor. It is really, really dangerous to text while driving. But I've seen people put on full face of makeup with the mirror down, you know, as in the visor is down with the mirror open, doing full face of makeup. You know,
yeah, well, I've seen that being done at traffic lights and stuff like that, but not when
No, not just traffic lights, actually driving, shaving whilst driving. I drive for a living, so I see it all out there. The indicating is the huge one. People not indicating. How am I meant to know where they're going to turn?
No, that's a fair point.
Off the road.
But okay, you don't believe that the mobile phone thing is bad?
Oh, I do believe it's bad. I didn't say I didn't. I said it's not the only thing out there that's as bad on the road that causes accidents.
The question we're asking is, and this is the point, if the Gardaí do a random breath test on you and you're over the limit, they have no discretion whatsoever. You have to be prosecuted for being over the... Well, you brought to the Garda station and all of that. So they've no discretion in that matter anymore. They used to, but they don't anymore. Should they have that sort of discretion when it comes to using a phone?
Yes, absolutely.
They should be able to accept your excuses.
No, not accept an excuse. No, like something more should be done about it. But as I say, I drive for a living. I see people texting all the time, and the guards would be in the flow of traffic, and they actually don't do anything about it. That's the problem.
Oh,
you know,
they
we're not meant to, and people still do it like blatantly, or holding a phone under their ear. I drive for a living, so I'm on Bluetooth. I'm connected to the vehicle, so I can answer it freely. But there's people still to this day who hold it up against their ear.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, the holding up against your ear thing, I can't get my head around at all.
No,
considering
me either.
the vast majority of cars now, anything from like 2011 or 2012, they all have Bluetooth.
Well, I drive a company car, but I also have my own private car, which is an 07. And it even has Bluetooth.
Right, okay. Certainly from 10 onwards.
It's not rocket science. Put it on, link it up.
Yeah,
Everyone has smartphones.
Yeah, no, I can't get my head around people having the phone to their ears today. But the fact of the matter is, do you believe that discretion that the Gardaí were able to show to Phil Hogan the other day, we don't know what he was doing. He could have been just picking the phone up off the ground or whatever the case may be.
Oh, well, listen, we're not allowed to have more than 6 people in our household, but they can have 81 at a party. The whole thing is just ludicrous.
All right, good to talk to you, Nicola. Thanks very much indeed. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Let me go to this message from Jason.
Well, that's fairly contradictory then, isn't it? If that ad saying there's 3 penalty points and a fine, but yet the guards that say they're entitled to use discretion and just give warnings and a slap on the wrist. If it was automatic 3 penalty points, then how could the guards have discretion then? That is very contradictory to be the ban. You should not be using your phone while driving. It's the exact same as drink driving. It's proven to be the exact same as drink driving. If you're drink driving, you'll be hung. So you should be hung for using your phone too. Simple as that.
Everyone to exaggerate, Jason. You're not actually going to be hung for drink driving, but I take the point. David sent me this message. He says, a friend of mine got 3 points for checking the time on his phone while stopped in traffic. This whole debacle has shown us how little respect politicians or people in the judiciary have for the common man. The real conversation we should be having is in regards to putting systems in place to take these people out of positions of power. Mark, I'm going to talk to you straight after the break. Your issue is actually with the guards. You there, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, your issue is with the Gardaí themselves.
Yes, well, you see them driving around and using the mobile phones quite regular, so how can they enforce something that they're guilty of doing themselves?
I have a very simple explanation for that, and it is this, that the Gardaí and emergency services were exempted from the law on using your mobile phone, so it doesn't apply to them. Even though a guard could be driving behind you on his mobile phone, pull you in and do you for talking on your mobile phone, they're exempted from the law. So it doesn't apply to them, nor does it apply to all emergency services. So that's the simple answer to that, Mark. Yeah, that's the simple answer. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't actually know that. I remember hearing a story of a guy getting pulled in by a guard who was on his mobile phone, but the law doesn't apply to them. So there you go. All right, we're going to take a very quick break. 6797 981 is our telephone number. I'd love to hear from you after that break on whether or not the Gardaí should lose that discretionary power that they have where it comes to pulling you in for using your mobile phone.
The sound of the city from Donamead to Drimna. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
We're asking whether or not Gardaí should lose their discretionary powers to let somebody off if they happen to be caught using their mobile phone. The other day, Phil Hogan, he's our European Commissioner who's in a bit of hot water over attending Golfgate last week, but he's in another bit of hot water over driving into Kildare and out of Kildare and all of that, and then he's in another bit of hot water over the fact that the guards pulled him in and he was using his mobile phone, but he got waved on because the Gardaí have that discretionary power to wave him on. Should they lose that discretionary power? In other words, if they catch somebody using a mobile phone, end of, no excuses. And in fact, as the ad says, no ifs, no buts, no excuses. There is no legal limit for mobile phone use. Paige, why did you get 3 penalty points in your car?
Because I was parking my car. I had my speaker and I was parking my car and I picked it up and I was straightening the car back up, but then I got a knock on the window by a guard, and he was asking for my licence. And you know, I didn't even think about the phone. I wasn't even minding.
Right.
And I gave it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to have to give you a fine for using your phone while you're driving." So I got the 3 penalty points, and I got a fine too. But there was I didn't even ask him any questions. He just gave me the fine. But there's been times where I've been saying traffic, and if you just pick up your phone for a second or change a song or something, and he just smiled at me and was pointing as if they put the phone down. And that's happened once or twice. So I think it just depends on the guard that you get on the day. But I do think that it is really bad for using your phones when you're driving, because I've seen a car in front of me so many times that's swerving.
Yeah.
And you can tell.
And you can tell that they're not paying attention. Yeah, they're coming directly towards you nearly.
I've actually seen, I was driving from the dual carriageway before, and someone actually drove through, the barriers that would be on it. Someone actually drove up a hill through the barriers onto the next lane because he was on his phone.
My God. So, did you feel hard done by? Or do you think, well, look, my phone was in my hand, I deserved it?
Yeah, I was at two minds with it, because on one hand, I was only holding it with my thumb and my hand on the wheel, whereas I wasn't driving down the road going 60 down the road on the phone.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Texting or whatever.
Okay, so
it was literally just in my hand.
But on the one hand, you feel he was a bit of a job's worth guard, but you still did have your phone in your hand.
Yeah, I still did have my phone. I couldn't complain about it because I did have it. But I don't think there's more extreme cases where people are driving down the road, driving, texting, where they should be getting the points and the fine, rather than if it's a simple thing where the thing's just in your hand. It's not like I was texting, do you know what I mean?
All right, so the question that we're asking, now that guard did have the discretionary power to say to you, look, don't be doing it again. Now, he happened not to, but he could have. If he had just said, listen, Paige, don't do that again, tut, 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 you'd have taken that, obviously.
Yeah, because he gave me a fright. Now, I haven't used my phone since while I'm driving. I don't even answer it now unless it's connected to the Bluetooth. So the fine and the penalty points, it does work. Well, for me it worked, because I'm not getting any more penalty points from that now.
And that's the whole idea of penalty points. It's to make you change your behaviour. And I can say it has worked for me as well, because I was up to 6 or 7 or 8 points at one stage a couple of years ago, and I drive like a nun now. Not quite like a nun, but
it does make you be more careful.
Yeah, it does. That's the point. All right, Paige, thanks very much indeed. Tony sent me this WhatsApp voice note.
Hi, Adrian. Tony here. You see, that advertisement, the road safety advertisement, it's the classic mistake everybody makes about those advertisements. People tend to think that it's for everybody, when obviously it's not.
But if you listen to Paige's story there a second ago, the guard did have the discretionary power to say to her, look, will you be careful the next time, for God's sake, and don't have your phone in your hand. And listening to her story, she possibly didn't deserve 3 penalty points, and the guard could have just said tut tut tut, but he chose not to. But the point being that he did have that discretionary power in that instant. Let's have a listen to another one of the RSA's radio ads about using your mobile phone.
Your mobile phone takes your attention off other cars, pedestrians and cyclists, the road, what you're doing behind the wheel, all of your surroundings. Your mobile takes all your attention, and behind the wheel, it makes you 4 times more likely to crash. It won't kill you to put it away. From the Road Safety Authority.
Now, there you go. That is the one of the ads that the Road Safety Authority is currently running. Francis, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Francis?
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Francis, should the guards lose that discretionary power to penalise somebody with their mobile phone in their hand?
I 100% agree. I don't think they should have that discretion. Why should they have the discretion to say person A can get a waiver and get a little slap on the hand and a caution, and person B can get a fine and 3 penalty points. Like all their advertising is pointing towards on the TV that it's just not acceptable, and it's not.
Well, the ad itself, the first one I played, says there is no legal limit for mobile phone use.
Yeah.
No ifs, no buts, no excuses.
Yeah, it's plain and simple there in that statement. Like, you know, it's just not to be done. It's not acceptable.
Okay, but you just heard, we're talking about the guards having discretion. Now, in the case we just heard a second ago from Paige, she's in a car park, she's driving into a car parking space. The guard did her, but he could have let her off with that one. Do you know what I mean? She wasn't flying up the road.
Yeah, he could have let her off, but the simple facts of the matter and the sad facts of the matter are percentage of the police probably won't do that because because of the adverts that are on the stations on the television and all that at the moment. They're prioritising that as you know, something to be looking out for and to be implementing. You know, that's the way I look at it. And then you have somebody within government that has broken multiple rules.
Yeah, but hang on, Francis. Firstly, the guard pulling them in for the mobile phone wouldn't have known about multiple rules at the time.
Right, yeah,
but secondly, I was just talking to Jeremy earlier on, and he was telling me he was pulled in by a guard a couple of weeks ago for driving on hatched markings, whatever they are. What are they? Oh, they're the crisscrosses on the ground that you're not meant to drive in. He was pulled in for it. The guard had just went tut tut tut. Used his discretionary powers. She actually admitted that she's done it herself, but she could have given him penalty points for it, and instead she just said tut tut tut, don't do it again.
Yeah,
but if she didn't have that discretionary power, she would have had to do him for doing that.
Oh, I know that, but like if you're going to advertise it on the TV or whatever, just be plain and simple about it. Say it's at the guard's discretion. You know, if you're caught, you could possibly be fined and get.
Yes,
you know,
okay. So the advert.
It's very misleading the way they're portraying it.
Yeah, the ad that I played was there is no legal limit for mobile phone use, no ifs, no buts, no excuses. Yeah. And you're saying, well, there can be. In fact,
there obviously is. There obviously is.
Yeah, but in fact, I know of somebody who was pulled in by a guard on a motorbike. This was last year, and he was rushing to hospital with his wife in the back of the car, about to pop her baby. And he pulled him in for using the mobile, and he immediately waved him on. The point being that they do have that discretion, which at times can be very important.
Oh, I know that, but God forbid, let's say that guard did do that, and further down the line there was a crash. Like, do you understand? Like, every scenario is different, and every situation can change within a heartbeat.
Okay, so do you not believe that?
My point really is that, you know, it's one rule for one and one for the other, and it's purely down to that individual.
But it's not. I mean, you're making it sound like, you know, if you're a politician, you'll get away with it. It's not that. I've known many people to be waved on by the guards. I know a woman who started bawling her eyes out. Started bawling her eyes out when a guard pulled her in, and came up with some cock and bull story about her having her periods, and the guard's face dropped, and he waved her on. So. The point I'm making.
It depends on the individual, really, doesn't it? The guard of the individual.
Yes.
So it's whether they're going to enforce it or they're going to say, "Listen, I'll."
Okay, but you don't
believe. People away with it.
You don't believe that they should have any discretion. If they pull somebody in for using a mobile phone, they should do them there and then.
Well, look, you know, you just touched on it earlier with the drink driving. You know, when that first came in, they were saying, well, you know, a lot of people would possibly go out and have a pint or whatever and come back. Now, I personally don't do anything like that, but people...
No, but back in the day,
if you're implementing that, you know, if you're implementing that, you either implement it or you don't. And
back in the day, a guard could pull you in. He might know you had one or two pints and he'd wave you on. Don't do it again. Tut, tut, tut. But he doesn't even have that discretion anymore.
That's what I mean. It's not acceptable anymore. Are we saying then using a mobile phone while you're driving is
in that same category
in certain circumstances? Is that what we're kind of saying, is it?
Well, isn't it really? Because
that's what it sounds like to me, you know, because I understand, like, the advertisement is plain as day, and you've played it a few times, you know.
There is no legal limit for mobile phone use.
It's not acceptable, basically, is another word of
okay, so you would like to see the Gardaí lose that discretionary power?
Well, look, if that's what they want to be implementing about mobile phones and how big a cause of accidents it is, You know, they either do it. It's the same old thing. You either do it right or you don't do it at all.
All right, Francis, thank you. Dara sent this message.
No, I don't agree that they should be able to use their discretionary power in these kind of instances. In fact, I don't think they should have much discretionary power at all. They're a force known for having very little oversight over them. They're rarely held properly accountable for their actions because of, there's an obvious lack of separation of powers between them. The Minister of Justice and GSOC's powers are very limited in practice. So I think giving any organisation these kind of powers with little oversight is dangerous. Now we can see the result of this, them favouring politics or people in the minority or people that they may know just, the law does not apply equally to all citizens. And if I know you, or if you're someone important, in quotation marks, we will just let you go. And I think the force is not the most trusted police force, so I think we have to be very careful when we give a wide margin of power to individual Gardaí when out on patrol.
All right, and let's have a listen to Paddy and what he witnessed.
Hey guys, sorry can't ring in, but I came on a roundabout one day out near Stillorgan, and the woman beside me was having a FaceTime or a video chat while she was driving down, the little slip road beside the M50, which brings you like Stillorgan to Dundrum. The whole length of that road up onto the roundabout and down into Dundrum, she was FaceTiming whoever she was chatting to. And funny what people do.
Absolutely. My daughter, says Dan, was listening to music through YouTube in the car. The phone was in the hands-free holder, and a guard followed me into a garage and told me next time he sees me using YouTube, I'll be done, as it's a distraction. I see van drivers and women in SUVs on the phone daily. I even saw a driving instructor on the phone belting around a roundabout. Fair enough. Steve was done twice, but shown no discretion.
I've been done twice for using the phone while driving. Now, I don't do it anymore, but I was given no discretion, and I don't think, from listening to your show, I don't think there's been a single caller that's gotten on saying that they had the discretion given to them for using their mobile phone.
No, I haven't. Well, we haven't heard one. And one last message from Chris.
There has to be the same punishment across the board, or else the whole thing is flawed. What are you saying? You'll only get done or not depending on the mood of the guard at the time? What a joke.
All right, Chris, thank you very much indeed, and thank you all of you for your calls and your messages. That's it. We're out of time for today. Back with you again tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Have a great Tuesday. Barry Dunn is next, and in the next hour he's got some great music lined up like these.
Felt like I was an old cardigan. Free from desire, mind and sense of spirit. Dublin's 98 FM.